Okay, we're continuing with part 2 in the Tiffany Valiante case, and her uncle has positively identified her as the person being struck by this train on the tracks. And so police pick up the investigation. This is about 11:12 p.m. So a couple hours later, she's all of a sudden found in this rural area, woods all around. It's dark, no light, and she's now discovered to be in her bra and her underwear and no shoes. And when she had left the house, she had a shirt and some shorts on and shoes at the time. So really strange there. And then the transit police take over. Okay, and apparently it's not their cup of tea for murder investigations, and perhaps they could have consulted with another agency, an agency with the state. This is in New Jersey, and someone else could have assisted in this investigation because they made quick judgment in this case. 5-6 days, they're deeming this as suicide. If there's a case where someone is deceased, you always treat it as a homicide until proven otherwise, right? And it just wasn't done correctly throughout this investigation. And so we learned that police they didn't perform an autopsy. They didn't collect DNA. They didn't do a sex assault kit on Tiffany's body. They didn't check her organs. Okay, there was a toxicology test that was done, and no alcohol or drugs were found in her system. Okay, and police did interview the engineers that were on the train. So there were 2 engineers. All right, and they had somewhat conflicting reports. Keep in mind the family later on hire an attorney to investigate this further, and he has some private investigators, and they learn about these reports from the engineers. And the first engineer says that he sees someone jump in front of the train before they were hit, but then later said under oath that he had his back turned and he didn't see anything. The second engineer says something along the lines of he sees someone about a half mile away, and then he sees something odd about a quarter mile away, and then he just sees someone jump in front of the train as if they're kind of crouching and they're diving onto the tracks onto the train. But then he later says that he just saw somebody almost just appear out of nowhere. The train was on top of the victim. That was the first point that he sees somebody or something get hit. So a few different conflicting reports with him. Now there's a separate medical investigator or coroner, and she chimes in and says something along the lines of, it seems that Tiffany could have been killed before she was killed by this train for a few reasons. She seemed to be laid out in a way where her arms and her legs are kind of over the tracks, and they're run over. Her legs and her arms are run over, and it's like she's just dismembered right there, but as if she had been laying there before she was killed. She also said that she believed that the engineers were probably in shock, and what they saw was matter from Tiffany's body going all over the place, and it wasn't her actually jumping in front of the train and getting hit. So interesting report from this medical coroner, and so just a lot of things missed. Okay, so family, they're hiring other investigators, and the next morning they go searching for clues, and this is pretty odd. Police seem to have missed a few things. Well, family is going along the railroad tracks. They find more items, and Tiffany's grandfather and uncle go searching along the tracks, and they actually find pieces of her skull and part of her jawbone, teeth. There's still hair attached to the part of the skull. They find her bracelet as well, but they don't find any other clothes. Later on, the mother ends up finding Tiffany's shoes and headband. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in part 3.